Oh my god, I'm gonna die. Ho ho ho, Horus Heresy. Ho ho ho, Green Giant. Is the Green Giant Santa when he's not working at Christmas? It's time to texture me Horus Heresy Army bases. So I don't know if you can notice, but you can see my breath in here. I feel like a dragon. That's because I've decided to film in the middle of winter and it's about -5. It's bloody cold. I want to say Merry Christmas to everyone, and I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year. I myself have spent most of this year moving house, looking after a baby and trying to sort this Horus Heresy army out. But between moving, you can see an upcoming workbench over there. We haven't had as much time as normal to do the Horus Heresy army, but I'm hoping a beef and tomato pot noodle. Not the nicest. Chicken and mushroom is the nicest. I'm digressing again. Anyway, I'm hoping that 2023 provides us some time to crack on with this army and get it finished, at least by the spring, hopefully. I want to say a massive thank you to all the viewers out there, mainly on YouTube. There's a few over on the Instagram channel, that on the Twitter, they come and say hello to you lot. People like Charles Marlowe, hello Charles, Iron Bomb, Bobzilla of course, and that's just to name a few. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and thank you all for your continued support throughout the years. Anyway, that's enough waffle, let's jump in and have a look. Can you see my reindeer antlers? Don't even know if they're showing up on camera or not. Alright then everybody, so you feel that you want to watch me base the entire Horus Heresy boxed set? Well, you have come to the right place. We begin by getting all the miniatures ready that we want to base, and that is the whole set apart from the Land Raider. Does anybody base their vehicles? I'm feeling I would like to add some slate chips to my bases for a bit of variation, but these ones that I found on somebody's driveway are just too big. We will have to do something about that, so let's smash them up. For that, we will need a protective bag. In this instance, I've found a sock, a Super Mario sock. I used to like these socks, but somehow there's only the left foot left. I have no idea where the other side went. My washing machine must have eaten it. So we put the big old slate chips into the sock. It reminds me of the scene in Full Metal Jacket, but we won't be slapping anybody's belly this evening. I know that might disappoint some of you, but I'm sorry, okay? Now I thought I put quite a few slate chips in the bag, but it turns out there's not as many as I thought. You can get a sort of feel for it by swinging and tapping the bag. This time it reminds me of something else. Anyway, let's move on. For the smashing of the slate, you will need a suitable smasher. I have this sawn-off hammer, as I like to refer to it as. I have no idea why it's so short. Maybe it's a squat close combat weapon. It's made by Rolson. They don't sponsor me, by the way. Now I take the socky bag out to the shed where it won't disturb anybody if I make a noise. Not that I care if I disturb anyone, my neighbour is an asshole. It's no joke, they refuse to take my mail for me even though I take theirs. That's not very neighbourly, is it? So let's wake them up. We beat the living hell out of the slate in the sock. Hopefully this is smashing those slates into teeny tiny basing sized pieces. Now it might be worth your while to wear some sort of protective eyewear here in case you get hit by shrapnel, Fury style. That wasn't a bullet, it was some electrical contact cleaner. You could hear it whistle. To be fair, it's been a long time since I saw the film Fury, starring Brad Pitt. I can't actually remember if it was any good. Is it worth a watch? Once we've done our fair share of smashing, we can tip our fragments onto some sort of collection device. Here I'm using the lid of some sort of Tupperware container. Try not to lose any pieces at this stage, as it could go everywhere if you're not careful. Here we can see the results of my smashing. All these different size pieces of slate. It's lovely having different sizes, as it gives you a more realistic random selection, as opposed to the same old repetitive pieces. Unfortunately, my smashing sock has not come out of this very well. It has more holes in it than a recent Star Wars plot. I guess it was one use only then. Oh well. Sorry, Super Mario sock. So what we'll do is we'll throw it in the bin with all the other rubbish that nobody wants. Okay, so it's now the time to affix our textures to our bases, and for this you will need some glue. I have this yellow tub with 502 written on it. I'm pretty sure it's some sort of PVA glue. Now when it comes to PVA glue, don't use the cheap stuff. I tried it once and it melted when it got a bit wet and damp, and that's the exact opposite with what you really want with PVA glue. You don't want to be painting it and then the glue just deteriorates. Where's my stuff? I have this stuff. Normally they say, there we go, exterior grade, which is good. If you can get an exterior grade glue, that means it can hold up. It's a little bit of punishment, a bit like me. We will need a little palette to put our glue on. I'm using this tag of some sort of clothes we bought for Wyatt at some point. 16 quid? My god, it looks like we won the lottery and I wasn't notified. So here you can see us dispensing the glue onto our tag palette. I shall try not to put too much on. We don't want it running off all over the place, do we? I then put a tiny blob of PVA on the base where I want my slate fragment. I usually like to put an odd number of fragments on each base. Using a pair of my wife's tweezers, don't tell her I have them, I pick up a piece of fragment and carefully place it onto my PVA glue blob. You have a bit of working time to move it around into the right place. Super glue would not allow that. I tried it once and it was a pain in the arse. Use PVA. Alright, so it may have taken a fair bit of time to add fragments to all 52 bases, but I feel it was worth it. We now just have to let them dry for a few hours. In the case of this video, it was about 2 months. I had to move house. For our second stage of basing, we need some grit, and we need some nice fine grit. I have here my collection of grits from around the globe. Mainly my parents' driveway, because there's sand everywhere. There's also some other stuff mixed in there, like animal bones and dog shit. Here's a nice little close-up of the grits on a spoon that I use for basing. You can see all the different grades of grit in there. Some teeny tiny and some a little bigger. No dog poos though. We have a problem. I need a brush to add some PVA to the bases, but I have no idea whereabouts in all this stuff it is. You can see some potential future videos in there though. Let me know if you see anything exciting. After some hunting around, I realise I haven't even brought my brushes over yet, but I do have a collection of crappies. They will have to do for now. And all that is just a fraction of the move. There's so much more to sort out. You can see that table behind you. I've already mentioned that. There's my wife's yoga mat from when she was pregnant and had to lay down on the floor for reasons unknown. Here they are. Here's the crappy brushes I found. Some Boldmere brushes. I'm feeling confident with a name like that. One's bloody massive and would be better for tank or scenery dry brushing. The other looks a bit small, but the big one is way too big, so it's the small one. We need a bigger palette for this next bit, as there's a lot more glue involved. I used to have an old knight-sized oval base for this, but that's in a box, God knows where, so I'm making use of this old mask. Remind me not to wear it afterwards or anything. Just tip your glue on the palette so you have a nice PVA reservoir. By the way, this can dry out on you quite quick while you work, so it's probably best to fill your palette little and often. Using an old brush, apply PVA glue all over your base. Try to avoid getting the glue on the actual miniature. It can be tough sometimes. And don't get any on the rim or Sam won't be happy. Hello, Sam! When that layer is applied, you have this, a base covered in glue. It doesn't look like much, does it? But we can sort that out. Good things come to those who wait. That was the tagline of a television advert back in the day, and I forget what it was for though. Have you got any ideas? With our PVA still wet, we then give the marine a dunk in our grit bath and give it a swish around, as it were. This part is very easy and also quite satisfying. One day I shall run out of this grit, but I don't think that's going to be for a long time. When you pull it out, you should have this. It's covered in a nice layer of grit. This is our base texture. It looks pretty good, eh? If you get any grit around your rim, just use your finger to gently rub it off. You don't want a gritty rim. After quite a long time PVA spreading and dunking, we have these 52 miniatures. Well, I hope there's 52. There should be 40 Marines, 10 Terminators, a character, and a Dreadnought, unless I lost count somewhere. But we can't leave it there though, can we? No. Now, if you're wondering what to give your Horus Heresy loving significant other for Christmas, I would recommend a Horus Heresy box set of sobbing. Yes. I would recommend a Horus Heresy boxed set. You could even get perhaps the starter set, The Age of Darkness, which you can see in a link up here somewhere. There are many more Horus Heresy boxed set blockers. Can't talk. I reckon it's this freezing cold weather, you know. Even my toes starting to hurt. Don't want to get chilblains. I haven't had chilblains since about 1983. What even are chilblains? Now, your grit is still very fragile. It will come off rather easily, and we don't want that to be happening. You can see here all the grit laying around my painting area. It's a bit like Galston Beach. So let's seal that grit. We start by filling a little container with some water. I have a lovely cart door ice cream tub for this. It was something vanilla, and it was very nice, but a bit expensive. By the way, don't use too much water in your tub. So then you tip some PVA glue in. You always need a bit more than you think, I find, and this room is bloody cold, so it's not very runny. It was almost a solid. Get out, PVA! Next up, using a brush or a stirrer, you mix the PVA and water together. I had a tiny brush and it took ages. You can use something bigger if you like. That's what I would recommend. We now have this lovely mix that looks a lot like milk. Don't feed it to your cat by accident. If it's too watery, you can add more glue, and if it's too thick, you can add some more water. But remember, the water thins it out very fast. We now soak our grit with our watered down PVA mix. I try to be gentle here and not knock any of the grit off the base. Sometimes it happens, but with 52 miniatures, who's gonna notice? You can see here our mix sitting on top of the bases. Again, try not to get it on the rim. If you do get any on there, just take your finger and gently rub around your rim until it's clean. You could leave it, but sometimes it leaves some sort of odd artifacts on there. Now regarding that electrical contact cleaner that just got fired over from that German anti-tank gun, it says at the top it's a Rapide, which is interesting because just underneath it, it says if you're enjoying this video then please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. That means you, Brad Pitt, and you, Henry Cavill. Is it Cavill or Cavill? Need to put the lid back on my shell. Now, while they're drying, I leave them on a sheet of paper so they don't stick to my workbench. Sometimes the glue leaks down a little and the rims stick to things, and that can be a bit of a pain. Every few minutes or so I move them around just to make sure they haven't started to stick. Now, after a few hours, preferably overnight, the texture will be dry to the touch and nicely sealed in. I always like to give it a rub with my finger here just to see what happens. If it's solid, we move on. If it's crumbly, we repeat the last step. These were solid, so we can move on. They don't usually need the second round. And thus all the miniatures, all 52, are now based up ready for the next round of the project, which is painting. The paints will add a little more adhesion to those textures, so they will be even tougher going forward. All in all, it didn't actually take that long to base all these. The painting, however, might take a while, but before we can paint, we have to prime. So they certainly took a little while, didn't they? Anyway, next up with the Horus Heresy set is some priming and underpainting. No, we don't use the word underpainting. Pre-shading, that's the correct word. Don't use the word underpainting. Sounds like underpanting. If you want to see some more Horus Heresy themed project videos, and I know you do, especially you, Santa and Rudolph, then check out the playlist up here somewhere. As always, thank you very much for watching, and always remember to say Merry Christmas. Ho ho ho.